Welcome to KRA's The Hub, the official podcast of KRA Corporation. And now get ready to hear workforce topics and trends you need to know on the go.
Well, welcome back to KRA's The Hub podcast. You are tuned in actually to part 2 of our special series that was recorded live at the 2024 NAWB Forum. I'm your host, Jonathan Overall, joined again by my co-host, Doug Foresta. Doug, it's always great to be with you.
Same here, Jonathan.
And I'm excited, Doug, to really pick up where we left off in our first episode, part 1 of this series, a recap of the NAWB conference this year. The theme, again, if you missed part 1, was Forging Tomorrow's Workforce Today. And we had the opportunity to gather and to share ideas from other workforce leaders, influencers. We were joined by a special presentation and a keynote address by the Acting Labor Secretary, Julie Su, and the Governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, all on day 2. And we also had some great conversations that we're going to include in today's podcast. But if you missed part 1, we also want you to go back and check that out. We had some great conversations with George Wright, the CEO of the Chicago-Cook County Workforce Development Board, Drew Hubbard, the Executive Director of the DC WIC, and Deb Giordano of Equus Solutions. So today's episode, you're going to hear our conversation with Anthony Featherstone, the Executive Director of WorkSource Montgomery, and Jaime Garcia, the Executive Director of Workforce Connections in Las Vegas, Mike Fazio, the Co-President of Workforce180 and Metrics Learning, and finally, last but not least, our conversation with Melissa Robbins, the CEO of NAWDP, the National Association of Workforce Development Professionals.
And Jonathan, I just want to, again, thank you for, as I mentioned in part 1, I wasn't able to be with you for these recordings, but you did a fantastic job. And, I hope listeners appreciate as much as I did the opportunity to have these conversations with workforce leaders, so many great workforce leaders in one space, and to be able to do this. So thank you for sitting down with these leaders. And again, listeners, I hope you enjoy these insightful conversations as much as I did.
Today, I'm joined by a special guest. We're here at the 2024 NAWB Forum Conference here in Washington, D.C., and I'm joined by Anthony Featherstone, Executive Director of the Montgomery County Workforce Development Board. Anthony, thank you for joining us today.
Great to be here. And I add Montgomery County, Maryland. There are a few Montgomery counties, so I'll add that distinction.
All right, got to be clear there. All right, so Anthony, this year's conference, the theme is Forging Tomorrow's Workforce Today. When you think about that, what does that mean to you, and how do you approach that topic in your organization?
Yeah, it's an important topic, and at least I know I can't, but seeing into the future 10, 15, 20 years down the line is hard to do. But I think when you talk about forging tomorrow's workforce today, it's the realization and recognition that you need certain players around the table to have the conversation to figure out what's needed today so we can meet the labor needs tomorrow. And so I've had great conversations with local board leaders, industry leaders, National Association of Workforce Boards, so a lot of business leaders here at this conference. I've talked with superintendents of school systems, post-secondary education, and stakeholders that represent the pipeline or ecosystem of workforce development. And I think when you talk about forging tomorrow's workforce, everybody has to be involved. There's no one single entity, one organization that can really forge the workforce of tomorrow today without or doing it in a vacuum. So we have to do it together. And I think that's one thing I've taken away is that if we're going to truly prepare the workforce of tomorrow and not have a labor shortage, we have to have all of these players at the table and everybody willing to cross into partnerships as it makes sense for your local area.
That's good. I appreciate how you describe the ecosystem, because it's not just what we think of as workforce, but workforce intersecting with all of the different organizations that you just mentioned, education, economic development. So thank you for highlighting that. Now, this is day 2. It's been a couple of days that we've been here. What would you say are 1 to 2 takeaways, perhaps inspired or emphasized at this conference that you plan to take back and implement with your organization?
So 2 things really stick out to me. I attended an awesome session facilitated by Walter Simmons, President and CEO of Employ Prince George's in Prince George's County, Maryland. And it was about the 17 functions of a local workforce development board. And I won't try to say all 17 right now. Walter could probably do that. But we gleaned a lot from that session that's going to help us get better when we come back to our office in our local area when it comes to leveraging our partners, when it comes to developing our next iteration of our 4-year local plan, and better engaging board members at every point of the board membership life cycle, whether you're being onboarded or you've been a board member that's been around for 6 or 7 years. And so that was really impactful. I think number 2, which is always the case, Jonathan, is the connections that you make. This year's special because you probably have noticed that there is a huge presence by the National Employment Services Association from Australia. And we were extremely fortunate to be one of their host sites this past Friday before the conference. And so we had a roundtable with board members, with NISA, to just talk about best practices and lessons learned when it comes to reentry, diverse populations, young adults, apprenticeship. And so we became best friends over the course of the conference in that one-day roundtable session that we had in Montgomery County. And so we're going to keep those connections alive and open because there's so much that we have to share. It's funny, workforce is workforce even though you're halfway or all the way across the globe, and there's so much that we can share and so much that we can glean from our partners at NISA. And so I think that's another big takeaway is that we're going to start looking at workforce not just here as a state or as a county, or as a nation, but there's a lot of things that we can bring back home from other countries, and we're going to start with our friends at NISA in Australia.
That's great. Well, one bonus question. Do you have any plans to visit Australia now?
Well, I told them that the only stipulation to doing part 1 in Montgomery County is that part 2 happens in Australia. And so there's a lot of great places in Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, and a bunch of other places. So that's the goal, but it's TBD. I'll let you know next time we talk.
That's great. Well, it'd be a great opportunity to visit the Southern Hemisphere. But Anthony, thank you again for your time today. I know it's a busy time here, but your insights I think are valuable for our audience, and appreciate your feedback and insights from what you've experienced here at this conference so far. I'm joined today by a special guest, Jaime Cruz, the Executive Director of Workforce Connections in Southern Nevada, Las Vegas. And we're here today at the day 2 of the 2024 NAWB Forum. And it's been a great conference so far, Jaime. It's great to reconnect with you. We've done some work in the past, and it's been a great conference. Over 1,300 leaders and influencers from around the country are here today and over the course of the last couple of days. And the theme this year has been Forging Tomorrow's Workforce Today. And so my question for you is, what does that mean to you, and how do you approach that topic in your organization?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me here on your podcast. So as a member of the NAWB board, one of the things that we were looking for is, as the theme as the conference, tomorrow's workforce, what does that look like? And then, of course, our keynote speaker dropped this a wonderful message amongst one of the themes was we really can't predict the future, And so what we do know is that tomorrow's workforce will look very different than today's or yesterday's. There's a lot of things that are going to affect that. We have an evolving labor market, if you will, that is affected by the advent of technologies. The Industrial Revolution, the IT revolution, and now, of course, the AI revolution are all going to change the way we do work. It's already changing. And so as people adapt to new expectations of work, the employer-employee relationship or contract, as they say, is all evolving. And so I think it is a moving target. And so it's our job at NAWB, I think, to support all 590 plus workforce boards across the country to really have the tools, the insights, the peer relationships to be aware of those variables that are reshaping what tomorrow's workforce will look like.
That's good. Yeah, I think there's so many different dynamics that you mentioned that are a part of it, and it can be a lot to manage those things, but I think it's great when we can come together at a conference like this and highlight it, put it at the forefront, really challenge ourselves as leaders and influencers to really live it out. So
yeah, I think let me say one more thing, because I think one of the things that is really important about tomorrow's workforce, and that this was in the keynote as well, is by 2030, and we saw a graph that was really telling, but by 2030, every member of the baby boomer generation will be of retiring age. And so that's the most massive exit from the workforce that we'll ever see, at least in our lifetime. And add to that the fact that for decades, both immigration and birth rates are declining in this country. It's the recipe for a perfect storm of where are we going to get the workforce. And so, that's another one of those big variables of what the workforce of tomorrow is going to look like, because more and more we're going to have to get better as a system to really maximizing alternative labor pools, whether that's the reentry system, whether that's, again, the disconnected youth that, again, if we don't do something about it, that number keeps growing as well. And so that's going to be a focus of us at NAWB, I think, moving forward, to make sure that all of our 590 boards are equipped and have the tools to be able to mitigate those issues.
That's great. Some good things ahead. I know technology's been a big theme here as well, talking about AI and how that's going to, how it is currently starting to just revolutionize how work is being done. So thank you for that. So with all of that being said, and so far at day 2 in the conference, what would you say are 1 to 2 takeaways, perhaps that have inspired or have been emphasized at this conference that you plan to take back and implement in your organization?
Yeah, well, one of the things I think that everybody is on the top of their minds, of course, is the reauthorization of WIOA. There's been already a draft proposal reauthorization that came out of the House committee that, while has a few good things, like a new definition for opportunity youth, it has 3 critical issues that are very worrisome to most local boards and local regions. And that's, of course, a potential new 50% minimum mandate for training that doesn't include all the costs for training, which, as you know, a lot of most of the people we serve in our American Job Centers, they don't need just training. As a matter of fact, you can't give them training if you don't remove the other barriers first, which is childcare, transportation, on and on and on. And those costs, as it's currently drafted, are not even included in that potential new mandate. Not to mention the staff costs at the American Job Center that it takes to serve those people in need. And so that's a big issue. And then number 2, of course, the new state set aside of an additional 10% that would state at the state level, in addition to the already existing 15% governor's reserve and the 25% of the dislocated worker. And so that starts to, again, reduce the amount of resources that are available at the American Job Centers in our local areas. And that's something that most local boards would probably handicap their system beyond repair. And so the next and the last thing that's very worrisome, I think, for the locals is an issue that would probably pit state and local elected officials, on opposite sides, and that's the redesignation of local areas process, which right now requires a strong collaboration between the governor and the local elected officials, who are, of course, hold a fiduciary responsibility at the end for the funds in their areas. And now the proposal kind of gives, a new definition of how a local area could be defined. Unfortunately, right now, without the consent or full majority consent of the local elected officials in an area. So those are 3 things I think that I've sensed here in the conference that a lot of us executive directors are already thinking about, working with our congressional delegations to make sure that these things are addressed. The second thing, takeaway, I think, is something, again, that came out of the keynote. For us, in Southern Nevada, we feel that our secret sauce for the success of our American Job Center network is the talent that we have in our centers. In other words, the employees, the men and women that every day wake up and go try to help change the lives of other people for the better. And also the board staff and all the people that work into our system. So as you know, again, technology, while good for many things, the bad thing is that it seems to, instead of in some ways that connects us more, and in some way it disconnects us more. Because you see, even here in the conference, people who are sitting together at a table, but yet they're talking to somebody millions of miles away. And so, or maybe not even talking to somebody, maybe interfacing with a chat GPT or something. And so I think I heard a really cool thing that said, it seems contradictory, but it says in order to speed up, you have to slow down. To accelerate progress of what you're doing, sometimes you can't be doing 2-3 things because you're not going to do them well. You have to just try to focus and do that one thing in order to move that along. And so I take that back with me because we want to make sure, again, that our staff is has a manageable caseload, that they have a good focus, they have the resources around them. Because the product that they deliver is, again, a ready worker. It's our best asset, and we don't want to mess that up. So I'm headed back home thinking about how do we make sure everybody knows that in order to speed up, you have to slow down sometimes.
That's great. I love that. It's some words to live by and words to walk away from here at the conference today, and even from this interview today. I think we can all draw inspiration from that. But Jaime, I want to thank you again for your time. I know as a board member, you're very busy here at this conference, and thank you for the work that you're doing as well as an advocate, as an influencer in this workforce industry, but also lobbying here at this level. I believe here in DC, it's a platform to lobby on behalf of workforce development and those that you represent in your local region, but across this nation. So again, great to reconnect with you, and look forward to seeing you next time. I'm joined by a special guest, Mike Fazio, co-president of Metrics Learning Workforce 180.
Yeah,
Mike, how you doing?
Jonathan? Yeah, I'm doing great. Yeah,
good. It's always great to see you.
The end of day 2 here at the conference. Great to see you as well. So I'm out of breath, but in a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way.
We're keeping up. We're staying in shape with
doubt.
the conference season, right?
Conference season requires you to be in conference shape. So this is the beginning of the season, so I'm looking forward to moving forward to all the other conferences too.
A lot to look forward to, some things to look back at this conference so far. The theme has been Forging Tomorrow's Workforce Today. And so the question I have for you is, what does that mean to you, and how do you approach that topic in your organization?
Yeah, I think, thinking about tomorrow's workforce today, I've used the theme for a while now of talking about welcome to your future, like the future has arrived. We see a lot of things from a technology standpoint, whether it's online banking, online learning, ways and things we never thought we'd be doing at this early in the century. And I think the keynote speaker was talking about how rapidly information is becoming available, and it's doubling every 12 hours the availability of information. So I think what's happening in the world of workforce is an awareness of how much faster we need to get, how much better we need to deliver services, how much more our frontline workforce staff need to be prepared to deliver in situations where we didn't expect obstacles like continuously low unemployment, people who are starting more gig jobs than ever before, people that are retiring faster than ever before. So I think that from a speed standpoint, I don't think we can ever look too far into the future anymore, because the future happens way too quickly. So I'm appreciating all the things I'm hearing from people and how they have prepared for this year and the coming years in handling what's going to come up next.
That's great. I think about speed. We typically use the term operate at the speed of business, but I think now operate at the speed of technology and generational change and what we're seeing there. And so great insights there. What would you say are 1 to 2 takeaways inspired or emphasized at this conference that you plan to take back and implement in your organization?
Well, I got a chance to host a workshop yesterday, which was talking about the recruitment, the training, and the retaining of workforce professionals. And I believe one of the messages that Brad Turner Little delivered during his opening remarks on day 1 was the emphasis on the work that we do really matters. It matters. He emphasized it matters. And I've been talking about for a long time in creating a work culture where we're not focused on what we do, but we think back to what we wanted to be when we were growing up. We think back to what are the things that created passion. Was it dance? Was it sports? Was it this thought that I could be the president or an astronaut? Like that spirit of adventure. And I think we need to incorporate more of that spirit into our tasks of work, because then I think work becomes something that can give us a level of satisfaction, that work-life balance that Gen Z and Gen Y always talk about. And I don't want to be a workaholic, worker bee like my parents or grandparents, but I want to make sure my work has purpose. And we are the industry where work has purpose. Mm-hmm. We're not selling widgets. We have a unique opportunity to impact and improve people's lives. So I think that kind of conversation is one that's picking up a lot of momentum. The other thing that I picked up and a takeaway from this is how many people are actually considering or actually utilizing AI in their workforce system. I asked the audience in the workshop how many people are utilizing it in some way, shape, or form, and I was expecting one or two hands to go up, and the overwhelming majority of the room raised their hands. That's encouraging for workforce, because I can remember 15 years ago when I started in this industry asking how many people have smartphones, and one or two hands went up. And it was dominated by Blackberries and dominated by flip phones, and it just gave our business a bad look, because we're expected. And we're expected to deliver outcomes, and we're expected to create meaningful relationships, and you can't do it if you're not relatable. So I think the AI has given me some optimism that we're more relatable than ever before, and more than other people expect of us. So I'm leaving here really encouraged. It's great to start some new relationships with people, and just as good to strengthen the existing relationships that Workforce180 and Metrics Learning have all around the country. Great to see you, great to see Knowlton at KRA, and it's great to see people are here and in good spirits. So I think there's optimism, I really do. That's encouraging. I think we all need that. It's kind of like spring weather, right? Mm-hmm. If you live in the Northeast and the sun comes out and it hits 50 degrees one day, you could finally say it looks like winter's behind us, and here come the flowers and better attitudes. So yeah, I'm excited. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. It's been a great, like I said, to connect. I know it's a busy time at the conference, but just to be able to come together and have these conversations is what is impactful. I was thinking back a year ago, myself, I had not used AI a year ago, but today I'd be one of those hands that was raised in that conference. So now we look forward to what's to come next 100%.
Year. 100%. Can you imagine next year? Can you imagine 10 years from now?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Exponential growth.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Safe travels back.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Today is day 2 at the 2024 NAWB Forum Conference, and it's been a great time. I've been joined by many great guests, and I'm here with a special guest, Melissa Robbins, CEO of NAWDP, the National Association of Workforce Development Professionals. Melissa, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Enjoying the conference so far?
I am enjoying the conference. It's very exciting to see this many people here excited about the future.
1,300 people.
1,300 people.
Very big conference.
Yep.
So Melissa, this year's theme is Forging Tomorrow's Workforce Today. My question for you, what does that mean to you, your organization, and how do you approach that topic?
Yeah, so I think we have to be proactive. And in the past, I think some have been more reactive in what we've been doing and solving those problems. And it gets very, very easy to be reactive to a problem. We see something and we want to provide a solution for that. And what I'm excited about hearing the conversations at this event is that we're now proactively looking at what might we encounter next week, next month, next year, and let's start forging solutions now for what we're going to see in the future, so we can proactively either be prepared to, provide that solution or just not have a problem at all, right? And so I think it's just exciting to be able to see that proactive innovation instead of being reactive.
That's great, yeah, being proactive, and I think we can really challenge one another as leaders and influencers around some of these topics.
Absolutely.
And I know we're encouraged, but we're also probably challenged a little bit to really put some of this into action?
It is challenging, and sometimes, when we're dealing with customers, whether it's job seekers or businesses that have barriers, right? And so we're constantly in this churn of trying to find solutions. But I think we need to remember, and the excitement here is great, but we need to remember that somebody that can find a sustainable career path, that's life-changing for them and their family. A business that can find an employee, that's life-changing for their business, right? And then ultimately, when you put that together, it impacts a community, a region, and a state. So, being able to see that bigger picture and saying, this is why we're doing it, right? At the macro level, at the micro level, I think that's encouraging for everybody to work towards those solutions.
That's great. And then we're here at the nation's capital, the platform here to really lobby and to really see what happens here, really have an influence throughout the country.
It's a great opportunity. So again, that whole reactive proactive thing, right? Sometimes we wait for what DC tells us. And I think this is an opportunity for us to come together and say, this is what's happening where we live, and how are we going to collectively change that for the entire country? So always exciting to come to DC.
That's great. My last question for you. What are 1 to 2 takeaways, inspired or emphasized at this conference, that you plan to take back and incorporate in your organization?
Again, I think that collective innovation, that proactive thinking, and then at the end of the day, professional development. We're in workforce development, and we're every day encouraging people never stop learning, career pathways, stackable credentials, all of those things that we do in our day-to-day. It's exciting to see the staff, the workforce development professionals at whatever level, entry level, front line, workforce board staff, state staff, walking the walk, right? And doing that for themselves, investing in themselves, becoming better professionals, because at the end of the day, we're going to be able to provide better service.
That's great. Melissa, thank you for the work that you do nationally and with NAWDP, and thank you for your time today at the conference. Hope you're enjoying the time here and the rest of your time here in DC at the conference.
Absolutely. It's been great. I'm looking forward to next year.
Thank you for listening to KRA's The Hub. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about KRA Corporation, visit www.kra.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.